In today's video, I'll discuss who I believe will be the top 8 forwards for Supercoach 2022 and rank them in order of, these are the players that I want when my team is finished. So the forward line is tough every year. This year, I think we have great options, but it's very hard to, which ones do we pick? It's quite, the Amy series will be really important to help us determine that. And also how many forwards we go, because we might get DPPs, a few DPP, new players with DPP rather. So players I'm thinking potentially Oscar McInerney with Fort in the team. Marshall could be borderline. Interestingly, Bontempelli had his CBAs were in the 60s in his last 5 games of the home and away season, which is interesting. So could he be close there? Maybe a bit more of an off chance for Bont, but even Parrish apparently he's played a bit of half forward at match sim, so that'd be pretty wild if we got those two. But nonetheless, a lot to think about for the forward line, and we'll definitely speak about it in the podcast coming up soon. So look, I'll rank them in order, and we'll get started, I suppose. But we see probably defensive midfield, lots of safe options, but you can't really go too wrong. But the forward line is where you can make huge difference in your early and late ranks because it's big decisions, so carry a lot more weight. So my F1 rather, is Josh Dunkley. So probably don't need to spend too much time on Dunkley. We know he had a poor last few games in 2021, lost a lot of mid-time, but just didn't look like the same guy coming back from a shoulder reco. Came back probably early on average compared to other players that have the shoulder reco. Some of them need to have the whole season out, but he fought back to get back into the team. But we know what he can do with only CBAs in the 40s at the start of last year, averaged nearly 130. I think that's all that needs to be said. Having a great preseason, no strapping on the shoulder. Like everyone else, there is some issues with durability here, but I'm not too worried about the role. The durability has just been a few incidents here and there that I consider soft tissue injury much worse, because soft tissue injury, the body just can't do it anymore. Whereas if you're prone to more contact injuries, it's more or less like certain incidents have to happen for you to be injured. So if hopefully that kind of made some sense. So that's why I worry more about soft tissue history. So Josh Dunkley, my clear F1. I don't think it's close, to be honest. So he is a lock for me, and looking forward to watching Josh Dunkley. I think he's been in my team 2-3 years in a row now. So although I've had to trade him out the last 2 years, but nonetheless, very happy to have Josh Dunkley. Could get out of control, and I'm not sure you want to be in that position where he rockets to 650 plus, and then it's not much you can do about it. But But anyway, my F2, give me one Isaac Heeney. So I think he's getting a bit more ownership now. His ownership, I think it's nearly doubled. It's around 14%, I think. Was 8% on open. So starting to get a bit more steam, more mid-time. I think he has actually, at the start of the year, he might have the midfield to himself, because no George Hewitt anymore. They want to move JPK out of the midfield, but I think he might have to play there early. Mills might not play round 1. I heard Roy Bottom's dealing with some injury issues. So there's a lot of issues in that midfield, and I think he has to play midfield early. And look, that's his role for the year. I think it'll be mostly midfield. There will be times they need him forward, because he's just probably one of the best forwards in the league. So look, I'm a big fan of the Heeney pick. He's reckless, and I'm not gonna, if round 1, round 2, round 3 come and he's going really well, I'm not gonna sit there and gloat, because I know what could be coming with Heeney. So he's reckless. That's goes for hangers. Might get injured there as well. So that's probably shouldn't have said that, but not really afraid to put his body in vulnerable positions. So look, there's always going to be an issue with Heeney, but as with other players, there's also a lot of injury issues in the forward line. But for his price, for his upside, and I think the role is going to be there, I find it hard not to pick him, to be honest. But I understand that a lot of people have been burnt before and they don't want to go back. But his history of scoring, if you look at the numbers, it's actually quite good, but it's just a fair few incidents here and there. So happy to have Heeney. I think he'll average somewhere in the hundreds, 100 to 110, that sort of range in that role. So could be more, could be less, but I think it'll be somewhere in that range. So my F3 And definitely, I'm probably the only person in Australia that has Heeney F2, but that's fine. That's just me. Next, I have Mitch Duncan. So Mitch Duncan should probably be F2 on most people's lists. However, limited preseason at the moment. Quite a few soft tissue injuries the last few years, and he's 30 as well. So, but yeah, the scoring power is quite huge. We saw his run in the early stages of 2021. Must have averaged at least 115 plus before he got injured. So, scoring power is huge. They want to give the ball to him. He's a good ball user, and just whether it's half back, on a wing, through the midfield, half forward, he just gets the ball everywhere he goes. So, look, really good fantasy scorer. Again, limited preseason and durability. I would feel nervous with Duncan in the team at any point in time. Even if it's round 15 and he's a good price, you bring him in, I still feel nervous because of the soft tissue issues and the soft tissue injuries and his age. You look at Zorko, for example. Zorko is I think it was 32 last year. Somehow had a few soft tissue injuries before, but got through the whole year okay. New year starts, he's barely trained this entire preseason from Achilles issue. So yeah, it's sometimes that's the way it goes, but can he get through? I think it's more unlikely than likely that he gets through the season without missing games. Plus, Geelong do tend to manage their players. So look, Duncan, still probably a little bit nervous on him, but yeah, the scoring power, you can't deny it. So he's my F3. Next one at F4. This is a tough one. I've gone with Zack Butters. So from what we've heard in this preseason, Butters is pretty much flying in the preseason. He wants to be a full-time midfielder, training in the midfield. We saw the scoring power in early 2021 and it was just unbelievable, and that was with low CBAs, even though he was hanging around stoppages a lot. We're probably going to expect a few more CBAs in the preseason games, maybe, 40 to 60%, probably somewhere in that range. It's going to be very hard not to pick him because I already have Heeney. Dunkley's dribble is not perfect, and then Butters as well. So, yeah, the more I've thought about Butters, the more I think he's just about a lock because of the scoring power, because of the role, because of the talent. And he was rated the 4th best player in the league in champion data, or I think it's AFL player ratings on the AFL website. 4th best player of the league, and he missed an entire half basically when he did that syndesmosis. So he could have been the best player in the league over the first month. The price is unreal. The durability is not great. The scoring power is just unbelievable as well. So yeah, back half of last year, I think it was on Dylan Friends. He said he couldn't even walk properly, something like that from memory. So yeah, definitely wasn't at his best. So yeah, if sounds like he's fully fit and having a great preseason, the upside, it could be more risky to go without him than with him. So I think he'll find a way in my team pretty shortly. It just depends on balance and rookies and stuff like that. But yeah, do like the Butters pick. The more I think about it and what he did earlier last year, the more I worry what happens if I don't pick him. But yeah, durability risk as well. At least no soft tissue history, which is good. My F5, and I'm excited for this one, is Taryn Thomas. So, Butters is the golden child of Port. Taryn is the golden child of North. However, I think Juan Francis is probably the other golden child now, but you couldn't deny how good he was last year. The spread from the contest especially, he just looks so good. Even I think in the preseason, there was a video of him breaking someone's ankles at training or something like that. So it's pretty sick. Actually, it might have been a highlight from last year. Pretty slick ball move. Great user, slick ball movement in the midfield. His CBAs aren't probably going to be super great. The midfield is just stacked at North in terms of players that need to play in that role, and a lot of talent as well. So we could be looking at maybe 40-50% CBAs. He's been training in the midfield, but I guess when you train in the midfield or play in intra clubs, it's midfield versus midfield. So there's 6 to 8 midfield slots instead of 5 or whatever it is at AFL level in season. So Yeah, it's an interesting one, Taryn Thomas, having a great preseason, probably been the standout for North from what I've read. And yes, just super talent. And we saw, I think his last 5 were really good, averaged 100 plus last. I think post-buy was 95 odd, something like that. So I expect him to continue that. I was looking at North's fixture. After the first 2 games, it's pretty rough. They play like Brisbane and Melbourne in that range. The Dogs, it's Sydney as well, so it's not great. It's slightly concerning. Didn't score well against Sydney last year, but hard to know how we'll go in wins and losses. But yeah, the fixture isn't super nice, which does worry me a bit. And then how many of these players can you go? Because I haven't even got to Goey yet, so it's a tough one. But look, I'm pretty bullish on Taryn Thomas. Just passes the eye test with flying colours as well. So I think he'll get that mid-roll, 40 to 50%. And does Greenwood have a negative effect on his scoring like it did for Took Miller? Maybe. See how it goes in the preseason. But I think 100 is not beyond him, but potentially in the 90s somewhere. Might be pushed out of the top 6 with DPPs coming in, new players, but nonetheless, 450k, it's just incredible value. So big fan of the Taryn Thomas pick. Definitely one that I'll watch closely in the preseason. So the next player is Jordan De Goey. Now, De Goey could quite easily be F2 here. I don't know. The issue with De Goey is he's training a bit forward and playing a fair bit forward in match simulation. So playing midfield as well. So it's very hard to get a read on this pick until we see his mid-forward split in the preseason. So right now, I don't have a lot of interest in him, but definitely going to watch him in the preseason. And if he gets a large majority mid-roll, he's going to be very hard to not pick. There is soft tissue history with him in 2019, hamstring issue, and had a few niggles here and there, like concussion, and I think he had broke his cheekbone or something like that. So then there's the off-field stuff as well. You would think, I don't know, it's not even worth talking about, but yeah, De Goey's an interesting one. It's just new coach as well. We saw him play sort of like a sweeper in the midfield, where a lot of uncontested ball kind of coming late into the contest rather than winning the hard ball and getting the clearance, stuff like that. So clearance and contested ball numbers weren't great. How is he used in that midfield? Because you think it's like De Goey, explosive mid, forward to center, breaking through, explosive breaking through stoppages, but like sort of like a stringer. But that wasn't what he was as a midfielder. So look, having a really good preseason though. So we'll see how he goes. So and it is 1:30 in the morning, so I'm getting a bit muddled up with my words, but it's nothing new for me. But anyway, again, we'll just see the mid-forward split in the preseason, and then we'll go from there. So I think they do probably need him forward, but I think their midfield is a little shallow as well. I suppose we've got Adam Lipinski and a whole bunch of kids they want to run through there. So yeah, pretty simple. See how he goes. Is mid-forward split in the preseason. Now, the next player, I was just looking through this list, and there's a lot of names I didn't trust, and we're going to go all the way down to the most free pick of 2022. It is one. Did I miss him? I can't find him. How much is he? Cogs. So Stephen Coniglio. Leon Cameron said he's training 80% in the midfield. So I expect that he'll play 80% in the midfield. And they've already said Taranto is going to play largely forward this year, or at least for the start of the year. He's a midfielder, he's having a great preseason, and they feel he can get back near his best. Cogs has been a good fantasy player. You know, he was a premium mid at one point, or probably in that, 10 to 15 range. So I think, he still should be in his prime as well. I think he's 27, 28. Look, ticks all the boxes really. So last year was a worry watching him, especially with the ball in hand. He just looked very uncertain and would butcher it a fair bit, and he just had no confidence. A lot of injury issues as well. But we know, I can't remember who, one of the assistant coaches at the Giants said he's the hardest worker they've ever seen. That was, I think, 1 or 2 years ago. So good work ethic, good character. I guess it's not really much point talking about him, but I think he can go in the 90s somewhere, potentially 100. But yeah, it's not too sure. I think it's probably more realistic around 93 to 97, that sort of range. So full mid-roll, we'll see how he goes. The last player I have is the other GWS player, Tim Taranto. So Tim Taranto is just not a starting pick. Brent Daniels is out, Green is suspended. They need him forward early. That's where he's going to play. That's where they said that he will play. But when they get players back and his mid minutes rise, we could be getting a very cheap Taranto for low 400s. So, and he can still score okay. He's had a few big games up forward. So look, having a great preseason as well, which is encouraging, and coming into his prime, must be drafted 2015, I think, 25 now, something like that. So I like Taranto as a player. He's pretty fun to watch. Obviously, does hack it a bit in the midfield, but has a really good overhead. Really good at just winning the pill quite easily. So one I'll probably have in my team eventually. But look, if we don't see him return to that, I don't know, at least 50% mid-roll, then I'll be pretty concerned. But as soon as we see that happen, get him in straight away at a good price, I think. So although it is worth noting that even with their midfielders in the team, they did throw him forward last year. So, and I thought he was actually a really, really good forward, which is not good for fantasy. So yeah, tough one, but could be one we get pretty cheap. So yeah, Taranto definitely fallen pretty far down the list from what we've heard over the preseason. So that's my top 8 for now. Who am I missing? So String is having a limited preseason, and I think they're getting all their midfielders back. Cordwell, probably play Hobbs, probably run Shield through the midfield as well. That doesn't sound great for Stringer, but I still think he was unbelievably good in that midfield. So they're definitely using that at some point, but having groin issues at the moment. So worry about him once his mid-minutes rise, and I don't know if they will on last year because he got quite a lot. So don't expect him to get that many. Dusty, yeah, nah. Be around the mark, probably around the 8 to 12 best forward mark. Had that pretty bad injury last year, lost a lot of weight. Seems to be having a good preseason though, but not overly bullish on Richmond this year as well. So, and yeah, just puts it in cruise control far too often in the home and away season. The other one that I haven't included is Treloar, and also English. So with Steph Martin on the list, you would think that Steph's the number 1 ruck there. English doesn't really want to ruck, it seems, but if he does get the number 1 ruck, or if Steph Martin is injured, it'll be interesting if he's forced to play number 1 ruck. But they also got Sweet on the list, so see how he's progressing. But yeah, not one I'd start with. Adam Treloar, similar to Duncan, so apparently Treloar's has a calf issue at the moment, and it's just getting to the point where it's, I don't know, 3 or 4 hamstrings, 2 calves now, I think. Bit older as well, late 20s, 29, 30-ish, I think 29. So I feel nervous about bringing Adam Treloar into the team, especially at the Dogs as well. They got so many mids, but you know, they will need him in the midfield at times, but maybe they just manage him until close to the very end of the season, up his mid-minutes then, because there's no way he can play big mid-minutes given his body at the moment. So what does he average? In the 90s somewhere, maybe, but durability probably gets, just too many soft tissue injuries now. So yeah, I don't really, I'm not interested in Treloar all that much. So he's not that guy, that 110 plus guy anymore. Accumulate, get 40 disposals, or get 30 disposals in your sleep. But yeah, I think his marks are down as well. Gone from 4 marks to 2 marks. So maybe his outside game isn't as good as it was. So, but he's a forward. So look, scoring wise, probably top 6 forward. But yeah, just durability is quite, I don't even feel confident with him. What I'm trying to say is 8 games. You know, if I use my final upgrade, I still don't feel great about trying to field him for 9 games. So yeah, that's my list. Putting Heeney, Butters, Thomas, and Goey in order is pretty tough. I think all four, provided Goey gets enough mid-time in the preseason games, all four I think perfectly fine picks. If you want to go all four and then like we start getting a lot of good forwards in the DPP changes, then it's a little concern. But you know, at the end of the day, forwards, it's hard to spend up in the forward line when we need to spend up in the midfield. There's a lot of great options in defence as well, probably float around the mid 500s. So a lot of upside with Short, Ridley, Dawson, stuff like that. So I don't really want to spend too much because I'm not sure I'm going to have that luxury to spend a whole lot in the midfield. If I can secure a keeper for 450k, that's sick. That's awesome. So probably start 2 of them, possibly 3, although I think 3's pushing it a bit, especially if Cogs becomes a keeper. Then it's like we got 1 slot basically. So yeah, forward line will be fun this year. And yeah, thanks for watching the video, and we'll see you guys soon.